podcast called The News Cocktail. This podcast will be hosted by me, Sid, and my partner in crime, Yash.
So here we plan to talk about some recent news stories, mostly financial and business from around the world, which we think might be interesting to talk about. In our first episode, we'd like to talk about the war brewing in the big tech industry and $1 million shopping deal which is about to happen, or let's say almost happened in India.
We'll also try to cover a very recent news around a Chinese tech titan and what that translates into. And with this, let's dive right in.
Okay, so Sid, I would like to start up with a question. So, do you like playing mobile games?
Look, I'll be honest with you, and I'm gonna sound like a really old person, but I don't. At least not the battle royale kind of games that are catching mainstream right now. I like playing Sudoku and something that's more stimulating to the mind. What about you?
So, let's say I'm more of a strategic game enthusiast, let's say Clash of Clans or something like that. But sometimes the online third player shooter or first player shooters do have their appeal. And if you talk about the online third player shooter games, you cannot forget about Fortnite, like which is one of the front runners in the category as of now.
Yeah, I mean, I did a little bit of research, and what I found was that it has around 350 million global users as of
Yeah.
May 2020, and people really love the game. It seems, although I never got the craze. I never understood what this craze was all about. But from a business point of view, which is what interests me, it is a cash cow for its developer, Epic Games, and to just throw a number here in 2019 it brought an estimated $1.8 billion in revenues. And within 5 months, this is really impressive. Within 5 months of its launch, it crossed the 100 million download mark on iOS devices, which is, some growth, man. They've got some really good numbers here.
Yeah, and considering the number of people, across the world who buy iOS devices, I mean, it is a very niche market. This is a very impressive number indeed. And this did help the company reach a global iOS player population, and this gave it a multiplier effect, to the revenue growth. But recently, on August 13, to be precise, Fortnite, or rather Epic Games, introduced a direct pay option, bypassing the iOS and Android app policy. So this made the game a target for the wrath of tech giants, and
Hmm.
both the app stores kicked it off its platform as of now.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bad move, wasn't it? And you don't mess with players like Apple or Google for that matter, because these guys, once if you step on their revenue
Piss them off,
stream,
yeah.
then they'll make life very tough for you.
Yeah. But the thing is, the thing more to notice over here is, the digital content marketplaces like, Google and Apple's app stores, they make money from the commission which they charge on the amount of app prices, or let's say in-app purchases on the free-to-play apps. And, then you have monthly subscription collections on apps like, Netflix and all, which also they take a cut of the total subscription price.
Hmm.
Now, if you bypass the App Store policy and introduce a direct payment services, this is bound to, have some impact, because this is both a
Yeah.
policy violation as well as a loss of some sort of major revenue generating part for the marketplace.
Yeah, I agree with you because to tell you what, Apple has removed Epic Games from the iStore, and if and what this means is that if you already have the app, you can still play Fortnite, but new games
Yeah.
won't be able to get a piece of the action on iOS devices, and Epic Games won't be able to submit any new apps apart from Fortnite, or even give any updates on Fortnite. So you're just stuck with the version that you have right now. And the next thing you know is that Epic Games filed a lawsuit against Apple, basically saying that Apple is a monopoly and it's abusing its market power. So this is very interesting, and this is going to probably be one of the biggest legal lawsuits of this year, in my
In
opinion.
the industry, yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing here is, Google's App Store also, they also banned the app on its platform. But the thing is, Google's platform, which is Android, they're allowing it to be downloaded directly from the website of the Epic Games.
Hmm.
But Apple has, completely cornered the game, and it is not allowing it to be run on its platform. But the thing to note over here is Apple, hardly has a dominant share in either the smartphone or let's say laptop or computer market when you talk about it. So there is a very niche public, as I mentioned earlier, also that Apple caters to. We live in a world which has a more than 7 billion in population. So Apple caters to a very niche market segment over there.
So, this is where it gets really interesting. If you look from a global market angle, then Apple
Yeah,
does not have a dominant position. All right. And even in US, Apple controls around 50% of the smartphone market. But, and this is where it gets very interesting. If the term market means only iOS devices, then Apple has a monopoly. All right.
correct.
Because Apple does not let you build your own app store. All right. And it prevents other companies from providing their own payments processing. And we all know that it takes a 30% cut on all in-app purchases, which, it's a very steep number. 30% of all your
True.
revenues, that's a big operating expense for other companies. So this entire lawsuit boils down to just one single issue, which is the definition of market.
Yeah, so in any case, in terms of size, if we talk about it, it's a classic David versus Goliath tale. Apple being the Goliath over here, obviously.
Hmm.
As per a Forbes article, Epic Games was nearing a $750 million funding round, which actually valued the company at $17 billion. And we all know that Apple on August 19 crossed the 2 trillion market cap, $2 trillion market cap, and became the first ever US company and second in the world to do this after Saudi Aramco. The development remains to be seen in this tech battle, the battle of the tech giants.
And let me tell you what, if Epic Games wins this lawsuit, it's gonna be epic. All right, I'm
Don't.
sorry. I'm sorry. I just had to do this. It's gonna be one of the biggest lawsuits of this year, and I mean, I'm gonna follow it. Like, I to some extent, I want Epic to win because Apple really the third.
Underdog, rooting for the underdog.
Yeah, exactly. So, moving on, let's talk about our next topic, which gets me really excited, man. Yash, you there?
So sorry, dude. I just started planning my shopping for the evening.
Dude, we're trying to record a podcast here. What are you doing, man?
Okay. So, one very curious question though, Siddharth, have you ever thought that how cool it would be if I owned the place where I am, where I have come to do the shopping? As a kid, I always wanted that, so I could eat all the chocolates and no one can stop me.
Dude, what where are you going with this? Like, do you want chocolates from me?
Okay, so well, to be precise, this is not merely a thought. If you're one of the world's top 10 billionaires and the Asia's richest person, and that is what Mr. Ambani has done. His chocolate of Ask was the crown jewel of the Future Group, namely its retail business. So now the mega transactions, which also includes the warehousing, logistics, and wholesale business of Future Retail, has a combined value of 24,713 crore rupees.
Hmm.
Let me take a breather after this number.
Yeah.
So now, technically, Mr. Ambani has added to his cart the facility to store, sell, and distribute goods all from one place itself.
Yeah, I mean, if we learned something from this pandemic, it's this. Like, Ambani Senior will not stop making money. Will
That
not.
is very true.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that this deal will not only bring Future's flagship brands such as Big Bazaar, FBB, Easy Day under Reliance's control, but also post this transaction, give Reliance Retail a control of 53 million square feet of retail space, which is just gigantic. I've never heard of this before. And around 18 million square feet of warehousing space. To give you a little bit of perspective, what size we're talking about, this is bigger than Tesco, which is the world's third largest retailer by 3 million square feet and almost equal to 690 football grounds. So you can just imagine how big of a retail space Ambani is going to have. And Reliance Retail would own around 1/3 of all brick and mortar stores in the country post this deal. So this is just huge.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. But my question over here would be, Kishore Biyani, once he was hailed as the India's retail king. Why did he make such a decision to sell the company which he has, worked so hard to build?
Yeah, I mean, his journey has been very interesting, and he normally would have not sold the company under any circumstances, but the The answer to your question is very simple. It's debt. All right, Kishore Biani has buttloads of debt on his balance sheet, and Biani, this is what makes the situation worse. He has a lot of his stock pledged with banks to get those loans. So you know, Future Retail was trading around 400 before COVID, around in January, and it hit a bottom of around 70 rupees in April. And what this means is that that stock which was pledged with the lenders, the value of that stock went down around 60-70%, and those lenders were asking for more collateral. And this put Biani in a corner. He was really pushed against the wall, and desperate times call for desperate measures. We This is precisely the reason why it's important to have a strong balance sheet, because you can then maneuver this situation and not sell your business to a competitor, because he would have his heart would have broken when he sold Future Retail to Reliance Retail.
If you see the steep dive in the stock, that is 400 to 70 in a span of, I think, what, 1 or 2 months, that is
Yeah.
a significantly steep dive. And if I were a banker, given the current situation of our banks, I would have done probably the same, which lead banker SBI has done in this case. Now, going towards Mr. Ambani, he has equipped himself with the firepower to take on the global giants in India, and probably on a global front also. If you see from a global perspective, so if Future Retail were to fall in India, if SBI were to drag Future Retail into a bankruptcy court, this would have severely damaged the confidence which global firms right now are showing in Indian retail market, or let's say Indian market in general. So yeah, Mr. Mani surely has appeared as a white knight and has saved not only Future Retail but India's reputation to some extent also.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he is the one who's actually raising the flag when it comes to Indian markets. And
True that.
Reliance also recently acquired a majority stake in online pharmacy startup NetMeds, and we've also seen partnership interest in its Geo platform by global giants such as Google and Facebook. This deal only makes the outlook merrier. So Reliance Retail recently launched GeoMart a year back, which has been growing rapidly and has expanded to more than 200 Indian cities. And let me tell you, if you're Amazon or Flipkart, which is owned by Walmart, you better get ready, because Mukesh Ambani is going to start a war and he's going to hurt you.
That is true.
Yeah.
And now, while we're on the topic of deep pockets, I recently read a news about the Ant Financial Services, which has filed a paperwork to go public and list an IPO on the Hong Kong and Shanghai stock exchanges. And with this listing, they're planning to raise an estimated $30 billion in funding at a valuation of approximately 225 billion US dollars. So now, 2 years ago only, it had raised a funding at a valuation of 150, to be precise, $150 billion, making it one of the world's highest valued private businesses. Now, Ant Financial Services was spun off from the Alibaba's holding company in 2010 and owns Alipay, which is the currently the biggest mobile payment platform, and it overtook PayPal as the world's largest mobile platform in, I think, 2013, if I'm not wrong.
Dude, why do you have to speed into the technicalities right away? Let's have some context first.
Oh, sorry, I got a bit carried away, with the news of these two interesting Reliance after Alibaba and all these things. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of context. So for people wondering, right, Ant Financials is the payments and financial services arm of the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba. We all know, Alibaba was the story behind it, Jack Ma's struggling, and how it became one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in China. And
That
coming back to Ant Financials, its products, among others, include Alipay, like you explained, which is the largest mobile payment services platform in the world. And it also owns Sesame Credit, which is an online credit rating services for consumers. So these are just two examples, but Ant Financials has a lot of services and a lot of products in its ecosystem.
Yeah, and one interesting fact here, the name Sesame Credit, it resounds with the Alibaba's brand name, because Sesame, open Sesame means opening gates, and this credit rating will open the gates for the consumers to get loans and similar short-term fundings from the banks or let's say from the lenders. So yeah, now moving on from this, this listing will make many of the current and previous employees billionaires. This will also give Alibaba additional firepower against its arch rival. And when I say this word arch rival, I really mean it, because that arch rival is Tencent Group, and that is another Chinese giant or Chinese behemoth, and it was founded by Pony Ma. And let me tell you, these two guys are not related just because of the name. Both of these companies, large powerhouses, have been engaged in a battle over position of dominant online market player in the segments from cloud computing and payment services and financial services and marketplaces. You name it, these companies are everywhere. Now, Tencent's WeChat Pay, it is a direct competitor to Alibaba's Alipay. And in terms of market shares, Alipay as of now has a dominant market share, which is 55, almost 55%. And it is trailed behind by WeChat Pay with a 39% market share, which doesn't leave a room for a third player, much room for a third player to, exist or let's say survive in the market.
So it's basically a duopoly, the Chinese payments market right now.
Yeah, you can say that.
All right. And also interestingly, while Alibaba Group has its founding in B2B, B2C, and consumer to consumer e-commerce, Tencent is more evolved around instant messaging and gaming. So gaming is a very big thing, and Tencent makes a lot of money from gaming. And Alipay, which was initially established as an escrow service to increase buyer trust in Alibaba e-commerce offering, to just make it more convenient. The concept was, the buyer could actually buy the product and then release the payment after he was satisfied. So that was how Alipay came into existence. But now it has evolved into a fully diversified mobile payments solution, and over time it has just gained market share. It has like 55% market share, what in a country with 1.5 billion
Yeah,
people.
that is a very impressive number. And given
Yeah.
that these companies work in the Chinese market, like that is a government hard bent on control, this is a very impressive number to gain. Now, here what I would like to point out is that both the groups have competing interests in Indian markets also. They're not only fighting in China, but on the all the other fronts, wherever one goes, the other follows. Is kind of a story which is happening over here. So in India, Alibaba is backing Zomato, and Swiggy, which is another Indian startup, online food delivery startup, they have Tencent as their investor. So another major investment which Alibaba has in India is Paytm, and for Tencent that goes to Oyo and Flipkart, which have made quite some money for both the companies. Now both the groups have 100%. These two people, Jack Ma and Pony Ma, they are both very humble person. They come from humble beginnings, and they are 100% made in China. That is how they were able to, they understood China. So that is
Yeah.
how they were able to build such a large companies in such a closely monitored market. And both of these companies have battled across the sectors which we've already talked, and some facts also point out to this thing only. And let me say this, in China, but this online space, online industry is surely a two-horse race. You see what I did there, because ma means horse in Chinese, so it is a two-horse race. Yeah.
That's very funny. I did notice that, but I chose to ignore it. Yeah.
Don't be so cruel.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So, this is an interesting segment we are trying to introduce. And before logging off, though, we would also like to explain a very basic financial or business related term. And this will be a part of our show's format. Yash, what I think is that, there are many people out there who still don't understand basic terms, and they seem like buzzwords or jargons to them.
Yeah, I mean, many people. So let's say I am watching news and I hear the terms, like heavy terms like Sensex rallied this much, or let's say this is what is happening in financial market. So there are many people who watch the news, but they don't exactly understand what those terms used in those news articles means. So here, folks, we'll try to the best of our abilities to simplify one term in each of our podcast episode, and this will be an ongoing format of our show. And for our first term, we have decided to talk about mutual funds. So in a very basic term, mutual funds are investment vehicles that do investing for those people who either don't have the time or knowledge, the requisite knowledge of stock markets, and hence are not able to do the investment.
Hmm.
Now, I will try to simplify this with an example of my favorite snack, that is samosa. So let's assume that four cousins, four people are gathered at one place in Mumbai. Now, let's name these people as Rahul, Raj, Rohan, and Roman, or XYZ, whatever you want. Now, let's assume that Rahul is the one who actually lives in Mumbai, and the other three have gathered at his place. And while talking, while chatting, all of them wanted to have some snack, and samosa was the snack which was decided to fill their tummies. The issue here was that only Rahul is the one who actually knows Mumbai's snack shops and the market around there. And he's the only one who actually knows which shops, or let's say which places actually sell good samosas. And the other three guys, even though they would have heard about the famous shops and all, they haven't had first-hand experiences and don't actually know how the snacks which those places sell actually taste. Now, what those four people decided is that they will all shell out 10 rupees and they'll create a pool of money, which will give them a 40 rupees pool. And Rahul will go out to the market and buy the samosas for all of them. Now, the only caveat, or let's say the only condition which was there, is that other three insisted that this snack should taste good. That was the only condition.
Hmm.
Now Rahul went and in the hot, humid environment of Mumbai, he bought four samosas, and that cost him 9 rupees for each and every samosa. And when he got back home, he told the other three people sitting over there that, look, even if the samosas have cost me 9 rupees, I'm not going to refund the 1 rupee which is left with me. And the reason which he gave was that he went into Mumbai's traffic and scoured through all the shops, which every shop will say that I am best, but he had to scour through all these shops and he had to decide the best tasting samosa. So yeah, for that he asked that I'll be taking this 1 rupees as my fees for doing all the hard work. Yeah.
That's probably the weirdest and the most funny analogy I've ever heard by someone explaining the meaning of mutual funds, because who the F takes fees when buying samosas, right? I mean, I'm gonna charge when I'm buying
Yeah.
samosas for my friend, they're gonna kick my ass. So that's a really good way to explain it, and you truly crushed it, my friend. And I would like to draw upon some similarities, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. That is what we're here for. Sure.
So the 40 rupees pool here, right, is equivalent to asset under management. All right, when we're talking about mutual funds, that is what the asset under management means. And Rahul here is some sort of a mutual fund manager. All right, buying samosas and stuff like that. But he, in a real world, Rahul could be our mutual fund manager. And just as the other three people didn't know Mumbai's snack market, mutual funds are best for those who have little time or knowledge for investing in the stock market. So if you're busy doing anything else, like if you're doing a job and you don't have time to research about companies, it's best if you just focus on mutual funds. And that's where Rahul,
True.
the manager of the mutual fund, comes into place. And these are professionals who have lived in the financial markets and have extensive knowledge about it, and they do the shopping of the shares for you. And just as Rahul had to go through many shops and traffic, these professionals, they invest a lot of time doing research for you, and they research a lot of companies, a lot of sectors for you, and they choose the best stocks for you. So for that, they take 1 rupees, like in our case 1 rupees, as the management fee and other expenses. And that is why they make a lot of money. Like, asset management as an industry is kicking off because a lot of people still invest in mutual funds. And to quote from my favorite movie, when you're good at something, never do it for free.
True that. So yeah, in its simplest of sense, you can say that you are pooling your money together and you're giving it to one person who knows how to manage that money, and in some sort, it is a promise that he will fare some better returns than those who don't have that much acumen or knowledge about the stock market. Now, do bear in mind that different mutual funds have different objectives. Some of those mutual funds will invest in small companies which will, to some extent ensure higher returns, but those also come with a higher sense of risk. While other mutual funds, they go to the debt market, or let's say a very large company which has a higher stability and hence has a lower risk. But the consequence over here is that with the lower risks, there will be very moderate return. So now, just as those four cousins, which we talked about in our example, they would have bought anything with that 40 rupees pool, 40 rupees which they pool together, depending upon how they were feeling or what they were craving at that time. So, in a similar fashion, investors can choose any mutual fund which suit their tastes and risk appetite best. As in, if I want to earn a higher return, I may go towards a mutual fund which invests in riskier securities, but they have a higher return percentage. Now, mutual, as I also talked about earlier, that giving the money to someone who knows how to invest in stock market, that will reduce the risk, but it will not nullify it. At last, these mutual funds are investing in the stock market, and hence, to some extent, they're also prone to the risk which it carries with it. They'll do the diversification, but yeah, there'll be some sort of risk.
So the major benefits here is that you get professional expertise and you also get hassle-free investment. You don't have to give your own time. And another related term with mutual fund is SIP, or systematic investment plan. So it's very similar to your monthly housing loan, like EMI, or the LIC premium payment that you make, that goes directly through your bank. And here you just authorize your bank to give a fixed amount to the mutual fund, whatever mutual fund you chose, and that amount is directly debited from your bank, and you get the mutual fund units, and they keep on accumulating over time. And there is a lot more to mutual funds, but we have tried to cover the basics to give you a brief understanding of the term here. And that does it for today's show. And you can read more about mutual funds on Investopedia or similar websites.
Yeah, that is all from our side. And if you'd like, we can provide links to some other websites which would cover these topics in extent. And yeah, we enjoyed making this episode. This was my first time doing something like this. This was very new for me. Hope you guys find something worth of your time in the time which we invested. And yeah, until next time, stay safe and take care. Bye bye.